Are you a researcher or an inventor with a great idea and no clue of how to turn it into a business? Check out Ecove Capital. They'll get it done. 90% of app ideas fail. If you don't want that to be you, check out Big Kitty Labs. They can help you be successful. Do you run a startup? Chances are your employees are underpaid. Give them the benefit that really matters. 614 Startups Entrepreneurs Brew. Email us today for details. Welcome to the 614 Startups Podcast, the entrepreneur's guide to launching a startup in Columbus, Ohio. 614 Startups Nation, it's been far too long. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, and I am excited to have my man Duke Armstrong from Propello Life on the show today. What's up, Duke?
Hey, what's going on? So glad to be on.
Yeah, awesome, man. We connected on Instagram, I think, and one of the first things I said was, this company gets brand, because I got sucked into the Propello lifestyle the minute I looked at your Instagram. And the only conclusion I could draw is, one, they're passionate about their product. Two, they have the body of evidence. If it's not the product, then I don't know what the hell is, because the results are there and they're visible. And I could see that you guys have a real community, and community is absolutely necessary, in my opinion, to really scale a business. So kudos to you for what you guys are doing on IG.
Well, and thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what we're going for. We spent a lot of time developing the brand, what it means, the essence, then trying to bring that to life in all the colors, the logo, everything that we do. And then we did want to back up and live the lifestyle that we actually are promoting. And so that's our lifestyle. And then we wanted to put a community together. Yeah. And so I'm glad you're getting that feel.
It's apparent. And I said, you know what, there's success in this company's future, just because I know that you guys understand that and you embrace it fully. So from IG, I jump on the website, and my God, is it detailed. I read your entire background, your story, and your co-founder, and everything about your company. And so when you said, hey, look, is there any opportunity for us to connect? I said, listen, I got a slot. I want to get you on the podcast, because people that think like this are the people that I want to talk to. So let's chat about your personal background, and then we'll get into the Propello Life story.
Perfect. So my career started, I actually have a physics background. And I didn't start that way. I started out in engineering, but I transferred schools, wanted to play soccer. And the school I really wanted to go to didn't have engineering, so I said, what's the closest thing? So I went to physics. And then I came out and I started working for Abbott Labs. They're actually right downtown. And I spent 10 years there. And the training, the company, it's a great company. But about halfway through it, I switched from engineering over to sales and marketing. And that's when I landed on the brand EAS and Zone Perfect. And that's when I fell in love with my work, because it was like this cross between my sports background and now this fitness lifestyle. And so then I just started sucking up as much information as I could. Started talking to trainers. They have an amazing trainer over there. I started sponging off of everything he knows and taught me. And then I started branching down nutrition, and I started reading as many books as I could. And all of a sudden, I'm like 3-4 years in, and the way that Abbott was taking their brands and their companies was starting to be, the gap was getting bigger between what they were doing and where I wanted to go personally in my journey. And so I left there, and I consulted for about 4 different companies over about 2 years. Raw food company, natural food company that's allergy free, some sports supplement companies. And I was trying to find that company that fit with what I was trying to do personally. And I was hoping it would be in sports nutrition, because that was my passion. And after about 2 years, I looked at my wife and I said, this isn't gonna work. I need to create something of my own. And so I got headhunted by this company out in California, and I looked at her and I said, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna be gone 4 days a week, but over 2 years, we're gonna save up our seed money. And over that 2 years, we're gonna develop this idea. And it wasn't even called Propello Life at that time, but we had our concept. And so then over that 2 years, we kind of just started checking things off the list. And we got there in about 18 months, which at that point, I put in my 2 weeks notice. We filed the domain name. We registered the LLC. We had our company, Propello Life. But then I had to go and create products. So I took another job down in Florida with another company for 9 months. And over that time, we developed everything. So we launched the website. We got the formulations. And then in the summer of 2016, it was the end of August, we launched the company, and we've been around for just over 2 years now.
Terrific. And, I understand how you feel once you start working on a brand like let's say EAS, because what slowly begins to dawn on you is that we have been blessed with the most amazing machine, in my personal opinion, on this planet, from your brain to your physical body. And once you start to study what the body is fully capable of, once it's given exactly what it needs to perform at peak performance, it's quite addicting. So I could see why that stimulated such an interest in you to want to pursue that path. And so where did the name Propello come from? The brand name for your company?
Yeah, so, gosh, naming a company is like one of the hardest things you can do. Mm-hmm. Because you think you have it, and then you go and check the domain, and it's $10,000, $20,000. You're like, okay, so that's not going to work. But it has to mean something. And I remember hours and hours in my basement with my wife, my brother. We're just like brainstorming. And we finally came up with this whole thing. Propel is the Latin root for motivate. Propello Life loosely translates to motivated life, which is what we stand for. And for me personally, it's like everybody has a moment when they decide, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to get healthy or change my job or fix my relationship. These big moments happen, and until you hit that moment, you might try, but you don't ever stick with things. And so we really wanted to create a company that was about that moment, that motivated life, that motivating factor, that why. And so we wanted to create a company where people could share that story, have products that aligned with those beliefs, and that's where Propello Life came from.
I love it. And, I think in life, if you don't have a plan, there's a tendency to drift, right? So this idea of the motivated life is meaning being very conscious about the choices that you're making, and hopefully by following this plan and adjusting as you go along, you could build the life that you ideally want to live. So the idea of the body, right? Physical conditioning, peak performance. What is your philosophy in that particular area? How does your personal philosophy also impact your business's philosophy when it comes to that?
Yeah, so for us, it's very personalized. Health is. We're all basically the same, but we're all extremely unique. And so it comes down to your genetics. It comes down to the way you were raised. I always relate, like, the way people eat is almost cultural, because you've got this family life at the core of it, and you've got all these holidays, and you've got all these special moments, and there's like certain foods that you completely start to associate with that life. And so some of those things might be healthy, some of those things might not be. And that's why there's this motivating factor, this why, this moment where you're going to have to kind of change that. And so for me, it was nutrition. It was the way I trained. It was how I fueled my body. And so, that's unique to each person because everyone's story is slightly unique. And so Propello Life has been around here just to kind of guide you along that journey and provide you as much information as we can. But it is a self-discovery process. Mm-hmm.
And, that's an excellent point that you bring up, because a lot of things about health, like you said, are cultural or environmental. And so do you feel like it is truly possible to make a motivated lifestyle change, a permanent change outside of a community of people? Or do you feel like if your culture has indoctrinated you in one way of viewing health, yes, even though you could make a mental decision to turn that around, do you feel in your experience that it's necessary to now find another community to be a part of that can help you through the process of leaving one culture and entering another?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, birds of a feather flock together. And not that you have to completely leave your groups of friends or your family and all that stuff. No, you need to be able to kind of, I almost say compartmentalize. And you do need to find a community. You need to find a group of people, core group of people that share those same beliefs in the way that they, approach their health, fitness, nutrition, and you need to spend time with those people. And together you'll have that success. You can still, and that's why we preach balance. You don't need to be 100% on all the time. I was eating cookies earlier today. I mean, it's the holidays. Enjoy it. It's balance. And so just as you go through your own journey, as you learn your health, know that it's okay to kind of, people call it sliding or slipping. It's not slipping. It's having balance. It's being able to kind of let go and say, hey, I'm going to enjoy this moment, and then I'm going to get right back at it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you go in, you talk to your wife, and you've decided this is the journey that you're going to go down. You've made your motivated life decision. She supports you. You go out to California, you do what you need to do, you come back, you go down to Florida, you get the formulations, now you have to run a business. What are those first few months, what is that like for you now that you've left your old life behind and you're 100% in this direction?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's unique. I have mentors, and I talk to them all the time. And a couple of my mentors said, if you're going to do this entrepreneurial thing, sit down with your wife and make sure she's 100% committed to it as you are, because it's going to take both all the time. And there's going to be times when you're, on cloud nine, and there's going to be times where you're like, what did I get myself into? That's called being an entrepreneur. And so she has been 100% supportive, 100% behind this thing the entire time. And so she's sacrificed just as much as I have, which is, remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Now, your space is extremely competitive, right? There are supplements that you can get that are price-based. You can get all varieties of supplements. You have large companies doing it, small companies doing it. And so what is your niche, would you say? Who's your target market? Who do you think gets the most benefit from using your products?
Yeah, so I think there's over 400 brands in sports nutrition, and it's a highly unregulated industry, so it's kind of the Wild West out there for quality and label claims and everything else. And so we really wanted to create something that was different. And we wanted to go after the piece of the market that goes to studio gyms, local gyms, small family-owned gyms around town. We didn't want to go after the big box gyms. We wanted to go to the place where there was a community of people that were tight-knit, where the owners and the trainers know every single member by name. They go out and have lunch together or have a holiday party together. I mean, they're close-knit. And then we wanted to reach those people. And we wanted those people that shop at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Fresh Time, and they understand the value of non-GMO, no artificial ingredients, organic, and they choose to pay more for those unique products that have that, and they want the premium, the highest grade ingredient. So they value the premium nature, they value the natural nature, they want that community connection, they want to support local. Those were the people that we're going for.
Mm-hmm. And so do you find that people in that kind of category are already relatively active or may already be using some product, or would supplementation be a brand new concept to them? And then what is the importance of supplementation? Because if I say, let food be thy medicine, let's say, which is generally people who are going to Whole Foods, Fresh Time, and Trader Joe's, but you're proposing that on top of that, there's this idea of supplementation. What is the added value of using supplementation in addition to food being your medicine?
Yeah, so to address the first question, it's a mixed bag. Some of the people know, and then some are brand new to the category, and they require a lot of education. And that's why we try to partner up with the local gyms, the owners, the trainers, because they have that dialogue on a daily basis with these people. And then the second part is we fully promote a whole food-based diet. That's what Propello Life believes in. That's what I eat. And so we believe you should be getting 80 to 90% of all your nutrition from whole foods, which means, things that are grown in the earth and live on the earth. And so we want you to eat as much of that as possible. And so we have a line of supplements. And if you look at it, it's very simple. There's not a lot of ingredients. It's very basic, but it's premium. And it's the top of the line. And so we always want you to first eat food. And then when life and your diet comes up short, we've got supplements that'll help supplement your diet. It's not supplement your training. A lot of brands out there want to be a bodybuilding brand or a CrossFit brand or an endurance brand. By and large, a lot of people's nutritional needs, there's slight shifting based on the types of workouts you're doing, but the macros aren't that far off. Mm-hmm. It's more you're supplementing your diet, not your exercise.
Yeah. And let's talk about choosing distribution channels, right? So you could compete for shelf space, but like you said, you're going after kind of small community-based gyms. When you were thinking about distribution channels, how is your product being distributed now? And how did you come to kind of the decision-making process for choosing, like an ambassador program, which I noticed you have? What was your thought process around that?
Accessibility and ease of shoppability and getting the product to the consumer at the best valuable price. And so we are on Amazon. We're on our website. It's free shipping, whether you buy from Amazon or from us. So it's always free. So the price you see at Amazon is the same price you see on our website. It's the same price you'd pay at the gym or a local grocery store. We're in a couple grocery stores. That's not our focus. It's more opportunistic. We believe, because our products are uniquely different and premium, to understand that difference, it requires almost a personal conversation on why, that you can't really tell at a grocery store. So I'm not saying we won't be there. We won't be on Whole Foods shelves. We probably will at some point when our story's been out there long enough and people know it. But right now, we get our story out there the best way through our own website and then through local gyms. And then Amazon's just about convenience.
Gotcha. Now, you've already launched. You're out there. People are using the product. People can research you more and get to learn more about your brand. But I assume you're probably looking at taking that very next step, right? Maybe scaling the brand, maybe, increasing sales, increasing revenue. What do you think is going to be necessary in order for you guys to take that next step? What are you looking at for the next 6 to 12 months?
It's really about our ambassadors, I think. The ambassadors are our way to connect with their local communities. And so finding the right ambassadors that believe in the core values that we have around nutrition, exercise, about leading a balanced life, and about whole food diets, getting those ambassadors, that's the key. Because then it's easy for them to understand what our products are and why people should be on them over the 400 brands that are out there. But it's not easy finding great ambassadors. So that's really the key to this. We do our online, we do our social. We're going to start to ramp up. We've got our plan on how we're going to ramp up our advertising, but it's a competitive space. I saw a stat today that the cost to reach a consumer on Facebook has gone up 60% in the last year. That's because everyone's throwing their money at it. Mm-hmm. So small startup businesses have to be very careful on how they spend money on the social media platforms. It's almost got to be organic word of mouth.
Right. Now, you bootstrapped this business initially, kind of everything out of your own pocket,
yep.
Correct? Do you have plans to just kind of continue to take that, go down that road? Or in order to scale, do you think you're going to need some additional resources? What are you thinking about when it comes to that?
For that, it's a financial equation. If we start growing too fast, then we'll need exterior funding is what I call it. So you're either going to a bank, you're going to angel investors, you're going to other, institutional investors. I'm going to try to keep this 100% as long as I can and mm-hmm. not use outside funding. But, I can't say it's not a possibility.
Right. Now, one of the things that I think we as founders and the startup community in general needs to start talking more about is health. I was reading a news story, and it was a young kid. It was on CNN. I can't think of his name right now, that died unexpectedly. I don't know what the results of that have been, but oftentimes we get these stories in the news. people who you would expect to have everything in this life, success, etc., money. And, for one reason or another, it's not enough. Oftentimes is attributed solely to mental health, but we are a single organism. How you care about the whole person affects every other part of the person. Like you said, talking to your spouse is important because you're going to have those ups and downs in your entrepreneurial journey. For you, your business is fitness, right? So you have to focus on it. What would you say for people out there who, because they're so aggressively building their business, they're making some sacrifices in those areas, meaning taking care of yourself, eating right, sleeping, rest, recovery, if they have aches and pains, getting it looked at, doing the physical therapy necessary to get to a state of peak performance? What would you say to people out there who are having issues around that? And what are some simple things, simple changes that they can start to make to really impact that?
Yeah, that's a great point. And, our logo is 7 overlapping circles, different colors. And that relates to the 7 aspects of a healthy lifestyle that we promote. And there's 6 external circles and 1 in the center. And that 1 in the center just happens to be the one that's most important to you at that moment in your life. And so that changes. And that's what we want. We want our logo to show and depict that overlapping, that integrated, that changing nature, because it does change. When you're graduate college and you're out on your own, you have a lot of free time. You don't know it at the time, but you do. And then you get married, and then you have a kid, and all of a sudden you have a kid that doesn't sleep. Well, sleep becomes the most important thing for you. Working out might actually have to take a step back, and we've all been there. When you're tired, you don't crave healthy food, you crave sugar. And it's just natural. So there's going to be puts and takes. And so I guess the simple things, and we have a blog and we go over a lot of this stuff, but, trying to get 7 to 8 hours of restful sleep a night can trigger a really positive impact across a lot of different aspects of your life, the hormones that you produce, the cravings you have for food, your diet, how hungry you are. And so getting better sleep, and there's little tricks you can do around the temperature of the room, the amount of noise, how much TV and phone time and screen time you have exposed to the hour up to it, and then having a ritual. So there's little tricks that you can take for different aspects to get better sleep. To improve your diet, the first thing I always say to people is, if you're a person that eats 3 big meals a day, lunch is usually going to be social if it's, probably 50% social. Dinner is probably going to be social with friends and stuff. If you're out, breakfast is almost always at your house. Make breakfast the most healthy meal of your day, and you've just got a 30% improvement in your diet. That's a great first step. Then you can start looking at, don't drink your calories. The less legs on the protein, the better. So go from a 4-legged animal to a 2-legged, from beef to chicken or to fish. So there's little tricks you can take to get better, and we have all that stuff. We put it up. We try to help people out as much as they can so that they can learn.
Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely wonderful. I really like the analogy of the 7 circles, and your circles are going to rotate. There are going to be times where you have less sleep, and that just happens to be what's going on in your life, and you have to be able to be okay with that, but recognize it and try your best to reset as soon as you can. So thinking about impact, we love to kind of hear what people's long-term impact, both personal and for the business. What kind of impact do you want to have?
So we started this company to make that positive impact on people, to change lives. And every so often we get some people to write their stories for us on their own personal journeys. And it's powerful. When people share the struggles that they went through, I mean, a lot of people see the end goal and it's like, oh, they have this great physique, or they, crushed that Ironman, or they just won that CrossFit event. They don't understand until you share it, that journey, that struggle. And a lot of people have some very powerful, inspirational stories that they've, thankfully started to share with us. And so we just reach out to our community and ask. And the people that raise their hand and want to share it, they share it. and then we double check that they're still okay wanting to share it, because we know it gets pretty personal. Mm-hmm. So, but that's why we're here, to share those stories, to help people get healthier, and to be there when they need help, because, stuff happens.
Yeah.
You take steps back sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Duke, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the 614 Startups podcast. I close out every podcast with my one takeaway, and there's so many jewels. You talked about getting your spouse involved in the 7 circles, but the one that really is resonating with me is the power of community. Mm-hmm. If you're a founder out there, or you're just, average Joe listening to this podcast, and you want to make a change, you want to live a motivated life, get around other people who are pointed in the same direction, who will put their arms around you, and you guys could row together in the same direction. Thank you so much for listening to another podcast. This is Elio Harmon. Peace. Thank you so much for joining us on the 614 Startups podcast. My name is Elio Harmon. Episodes of the podcast roll out every week at www.614startups.com and on iTunes. Don't forget, follow us on IG and Facebook at 614 Startups. Peace.